Ladies and gentlemen, all rise. Court is back in session. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Devil's Due. I am your host, Carl Duty. With me, as always, is a man who has no idea that I sell bootleg Long Cold Dark merch out of the back of my car, Mr. Drew Celestino.
Well,
and it's got Sabres logos on it, too.
You're doing it all wrong, then. You want to sell that stuff on Facebook and Instagram, because apparently they don't care about bootleg merchandise, because every ad I see on both is for bootleg, band, or music, or sports merchandise, often completely smashed together.
Yep.
And no one seems to care. No amount of reporting seems to get these things cleansed of the internet, but there they are.
Yep.
So that's a crack staff you got working there, Facebook.
All right, folks. We're here today. It's a sad day. It's a sad week for. I'm not even going to quantify it by saying geek culture. I'm just going to say culture as a whole. Obviously, we're not going to bury the lead. We did lose Stan Lee this week, and this is what our episode's going to be about. But we are going to stand on ceremony for the first part of the episode, and then get to our thoughts on that after. There will be no Daredevil episode review this episode, as we want to give as much as we can to Stan for the guy who gave us Daredevil. On top of that, we just kind of want to savor this season like a fine wine.
It deserves to be savored.
Yes.
So
for the small ceremony we are going to stand on, Drew, how was your week?
It's been good, man. Friday evening, I had the ROH NJPW Global Wars, I should say, show. War of the Worlds is a separate, it's the spring tour that they do. Global Wars is the fall tour. So hopefully I can go to that in the spring. We'll see.
Does their War of the Worlds tour involve Martians?
No.
Then they're doing it wrong.
I mean,
Then they're doing it wrong.
Hey, it's English. What can I tell you?
The Martians invaded Japan in War of the Worlds.
But the translation, you see.
Go on.
All your base belong to us, English. Anyway, that was a very good time. We had ringside seats, and it was a baller show.
Yep.
The card was a little underwhelming on paper, but every match completely delivered and over-delivered. Yep. So it was an excellent show. ROH is in real trouble because if Cody and the Young Bucks and Adam Page all decide to drop anchor somewhere else,
unite to form Devastator.
Ring of Honor does not have a good pipeline of young up-and-comers to fill that void. So, yeah. NJPW, on the other hand, has, I think, been doing a good job of prepping for life post-Elite, post-Cody, post-Kenny, post-Bucks. I think they're ready. If those guys should, go somewhere else, New Japan is in a much better position to withstand that blow. And I think they'll thrive if those guys actually did leave. Okay. ROH, though? No. Bad news for ROH.
I shudder to ask where those guys would go.
We don't know. My gut says not WWE. But where else could they possibly go?
Start their own federation?
I think that might be a thing. I don't know in what capacity, and I don't know. No one knows. This is all speculative. But there was that report that came out a couple weeks ago, and it's been kind of shot down by everyone involved. But of course they would, because why would they want to say something until they can say something?
Yeah.
But there was that report that came out that said the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Shahid Khan.
Okay.
He's got tons and tons and tons of billions of dollars, and he also owns a European football team.
Yeah.
As in soccer, as in, in our parlance.
Football.
So he's got money to burn, and apparently he's a fan of wrestling. And the rumor came out, or there's a report that came out, that he is going to be backing a new federation that will be also involving Chris Jericho and Jim Ross. I have no idea how valid that is. Everyone's dodging the question.
Yeah.
But, again, why would they say anything if they didn't have to? So, anyway, I think they might go it alone and see what happens. But WWE, those guys, for what they want to do, I cannot see it. I just don't see it. They want to be creatively in control of their destinies, and WWE is going to be very much not that.
Yeah.
They'll be made into just other guys, and they'll be given scripts to read and have no control over where they go and how they get there, and I don't see those guys going for that at all. So, I don't know. Come January, we'll find out. So, anyway, it was a really fun show. We had a good time. Saturday, I spent some time down here kind of getting some music together. I'm starting to kind of get my ducks in a row for another Long Cold Dark album, which is going to be a lot more work on me than I originally anticipated it being, because now I'm basically doing it mostly myself. So that's going to be a good time. The band's kind of going through a bit of a transitional phase right now. So basically, I am the band at the moment, and I'm going to have to assemble all the songs that I've had assembled for a while and actually execute them. But now that I'm not waiting on other people to learn parts and provide feedback on said parts and things like that, I'm just forging ahead myself. And I got to kind of get that rolling.
So you're going to be your own little Trent Reznor.
Kind of. I mean, I've done this before. Before the band was really going full tilt, 10 years ago. That's how the first album happened, more or less. I wrote it all and did it all. Jason contributed a couple guitar parts and a couple solos, but other than that, I tracked it completely myself and handed it off to someone for mixing and mastering, and there was the first Long Cold Dark record. So it wasn't until the second one that it became more of a democratic band thing, and then with membership changes over time, that kind of ebbs and flows of it all, make that kind of, it makes that dynamic hard to sustain. So in recent months, year, if everyone isn't vibing, on the same wavelength of what they want to do and where they want to go, it just kind of holds the whole thing back. So, we had a little chat, and, I'm kind of free to go here and go full tilt and not worry about anybody right now. So I'm not going to. So we'll see how long it takes me to do, but just know that it's more a go than it was before, because now it's completely on me, and mentally I'm ready to go. So I'm looking forward to it. Should be fun. Just getting down here and playing again and getting some music flowing. It's a good feeling. It's been a couple months, obviously, with the boy, so I've been a little busy, but I had some free times, and that was awesome to finally just kind of dip my head back into music world. We also had a Friendsgiving on Saturday evening, which was really awesome.
2 of 4, I believe.
Yeah, there's more. Well, if you include Thanksgiving proper, it's 2 of 4 Friendsgivings. So great time, great food, great drinks, just a really, really good time. We brought Grant with us to this one, and he got passed around I'm trying to think of a family friendly.
You got passed around like a newborn baby.
Sure, there you go. I guess that's what that is. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
I don't think I saw him for more than 20 minutes for the few hours we were there. Just where is he? Oh, he's over there. Okay, cool. So that was cool. Sunday, I hung around the house, actually. Watched the Bills game, which was kind of entertaining, actually, to a degree, as much as a Bills game can be. They won, which was whoa, look at that. Don't get too used to this. It's not going to happen too often. But for now, I will enjoy it. My sister came over to see Grant. She hasn't seen him in the month or so she was excited to see him. My dad came over to see him. And that's really about it. Playing Final Fantasy VI still enjoying it. I watched a little more Castlevania.
Yeah, I haven't started it yet.
You know, I want to like this show more than I do. Like, I want to.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say it. It's really boring. Nothing happens for like 5 episodes.
Okay.
And I'm just sitting there waiting like, okay, they've been in Richter, Symphony of the Night in the brain, sorry. Trevor Belmont. They've been in his basement for 4 episodes. They haven't done anything. Like, come on. Let's make with the whipping and the jumping in the
get that bomber jacket out there.
You know, so, yeah, right. They didn't have bomber jackets in the 1400s.
Tell that to Simon Belmont.
In any case, it was just like, I'm like, come on, fine, let's do some stuff. And yeah, nothing really happens. And then finally in the episode I was watching just before you got here, stuff finally happened. Like, oh, fighting. Cool. All right.
Novel concept.
And Alucard was doing stuff from Symphony of the Night. And I was like, oh, he's got the sword relic, and the sword is autonomous, and it swings around in midair, and it does stuff meant like telepathically. Oh, he transformed into the wolf. I was like, so I was kind of marking out a little bit.
Was it Bart and he's doing stuff?
It was Alucard, and he's doing stuff. I was excited. So anyway, but that aside, yeah, kind of a slog to watch that show. Unlike Daredevil.
Saying something, because that's half-hour episodes. And how many of them are there?
8 or 9. And even I'm telling you, man, I'm trying to maintain interest, but I'm just like, there's nothing happening here. Like, yeah, we get a lot of backstory on like Dracula's generals and stuff, and that's kind of like, okay, I guess, but I didn't come for the generals, man. I came to see Dracula, laying waste, and then Trevor and team fighting hordes of undead on their way to go kick Dracula in the teeth. It doesn't really happen for a while. They just kind of hang around in Trevor's basement, and they have witty British dialogue happening.
I mean, is it
like
a really cool basement? Is it like a basement you want to hang out in?
I mean, it's a big library kind of thing, so it's smells of rich mahogany, and but again, I want to like it more, just because. But unlike Daredevil season 3, which I've been just like cruising through this week, I think I have 2 episodes to go. I've watched like 2 when I have sat down to watch it. It's been like 2 episodes in a row, back to back on those nights. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's everything I ever wanted.
Alrighty.
So how about you? What's going on? How's been the hunt?
Job hunt is still going on. For the first couple days, you're kind of like getting everything set up on all these websites and whatnot, like filing for unemployment, getting your profiles updating your resume and whatnot. And then after our first couple days, like, it's just checking to see if any new jobs of interest posted, pressing a couple buttons to apply if you want. Yeah. And then go on. It's like, it leaves me with, I would say, too much free time on my hands, and free time I feel guilty about having.
Sure.
So I try to occupy that free time by being as useful as I can around the house, doing like any extra work around the house that I can do, things that have been put off that need to be done. So yeah, that's progressing.
Are you honing your Street Fighter skills?
Dude, I haven't picked up Street Fighter in... Like, I picked it up when Sagat came out. I got Sagat and played around with him a little bit. But other than that, I've been largely just kind of out of it for a long time. I still love the game. I know I'll go back to it one day, but right now it's just like video games as a whole just aren't, a big part of the leisure time right now. And that's nothing out of the ordinary for me. I go through times like that, and sometimes I go through a time like that where nothing is out, or like this, like I go through a time like that when like Spider-Man's out and other stuff that's apparently really good. I guess the new Call of Duty is like a significant improvement over what's been for the past like 6 or 7 years, but I'm just like, yeah, sure, okay. But But no, Thursday night was X-Wing night. And that was good. I even felt guilty being there. I'm like, I don't. I kind of feel like I don't deserve to be here almost. Friday night, you had offered me the ticket to the wrestling show.
We had that extra.
Unfortunately, I could not make it because Julie had a girls' night thing with a couple of our friends that I'd forgotten about. So my friend Brian came over to the house, and we did it old school style. He was kind enough to order a pizza, and we played some Nintendo Switch old school NES games.
Ah, okay.
There's a lot of ice hockey going on that night, a lot of Tecmo Bowl, some other random stuff here and there. Probably one of the most incredible ice hockey games ever.
It'll go down in history.
I won 20-18.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there was no low scoring.
Wow.
Because you control the goalie in that game.
So apparently neither of you were controlling the goalie very well.
And it's a delicate balance of when you decide to stop controlling your players and start controlling the goalie.
Right.
So, yeah, there was a lot of scoring in that game. We got a big brawl happened in the game, and then the game was decided by shootout, ultimately. So that was Friday night. Saturday, I don't think it did much Saturday. Sunday, we had a surprise party for our friend Michelle. That went off very well. So her husband Derek put that together, and we had a good time there, and then just kind of came home and did, just hung out, whatnot. So that's kind of what it's been. Nothing too big or exciting. Even though I still feel like I'm forgetting something. So that was my week. Dear listeners, if you would like to tell us about your week, send us any questions or comments to the show as Drew strokes his keyboard. You can do so at the following locations. You can do so on Twitter. You can follow us at Devils Do Pod. You can go to facebook.com/Devils Do Pod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. Now, Drew, we do have some emails, but as I mentioned on our social media outlets earlier in the week, that we just kind of wanted people to send any thoughts or memories they had of Stan. We do have a couple emails along those lines. We will get to those when we enter our Stan Lee discussion.
Yep.
Which will be right after the news, as we do have some news coming out. We found out one of the worst kept secrets in all of comic television dumb, and that's that Jeremy Irons will be playing Ozymandias in the HBO Watchmen series.
I think we said that as soon as his name popped up as being on the radar for the show.
Yeah,
he's playing Ozymandias.
Who
right?
else could he be?
Right, like it makes all the sense in the world. And is it inspired casting? It's not. I wouldn't say inspired. I wouldn't say it's a shocker, but it's like that's pretty spot on.
Yeah, that's good. And that's what you want.
Right. Like, I'm not complaining about this being like the most predictable thing in the world is not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
So okay, you gentlemen, you have my curiosity. So anytime now,
give us that first trailer.
Even the first drip of that score. I just want to hear that. Just give me something.
So yeah, so that's going to be coming out. We're excited about that, and I'm kind of curious as when the gap is going to be between the end of Game of Thrones, because the final season of Game of Thrones starts in April. I think it's only 4 or 5 episodes, but they're feature-length episodes.
Do you think that this can't be like an ongoing thing? So I wonder, like this won't be like their answer to their new Game of Thrones, right? I don't know. It'd be hard to. Yeah, it would be. It all depends on obviously the execution. Something that is kind of it's a sequel, so they don't have the limitations of operating within the defined story. True.
So who knows? It might. But at the same time, like the Game of Thrones prequel series is coming out too, which as much as I love... Yeah.
So it's not real the ending. It's just
well, no, it's like, see, here's the thing. I was talking about this with a friend of mine earlier this week. I really enjoy Game of Thrones. I've really liked the series. I'm looking forward to how it ends. Then they announced like the prequel series takes place 8,000 years before the current series, aka the time that nobody cares about.
yeah. It's kind of like when people talk about Star Wars and like they could do a prequel series of the Old Republic and it would be 8,000 and then it wouldn't have ties to any. Nobody cares, man.
See, that I wouldn't. I would have a slight interest in, only because I love that world, and as we have another news story pertaining to that. But with Game of Thrones, it's just like this so far in the past. Like if you were to say like 50 years before, and like kind of tell the story of the establishment of the families in the Game of Thrones and how things came about that started in Game of Thrones, I'd be more interested in that. But like 8,000 years ago, I don't care. What was it? Listening, I know you listened to it too. We're listening to this week's episode of what is now known as Fat Man Beyond. Mark Bernardin said a very good Stephen King quote is that every character has a backstory, and none of them are interesting.
Yeah, that was an interesting portion of the show this week. I dug that. I'm like, yeah. That's
so, yeah, I'm just kind of wondering where this Watchmen series is going to fall in regards to that, because typically HBO just has like their one big flagship series going on at the same time. They generally don't like to compete with themselves.
No, right. Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know. They'll probably... Maybe they'll wait till Game of Thrones is over and then drop this as kind of like a intermediary until they find their next Game of Thrones. Yeah. Maybe they'll pepper the network with various miniseries and see what sticks.
Cool.
It's not like there's not enough comic properties that could. I'm sorry, but there are many properties that I think could be picked up and ran with on HBO very successfully. Saga. Oh, if they had the money, Saga would be obvious. One that they did a pilot for, but Destination America or WGN America, one or the other, they turned it down. Is Jason Aaron's Scalped? They did film. They filmed the pilot, and the network said thanks but no thanks.
That is a very HBO.
That would be
story.
That's got HBO written all over it. But we'll see if that could happen. It's not like I'm trying to think of another. There's a million options out there. Comics are ripe for the picking.
Yeah.
Part of me laments that. I knowing what I know now, I kind of wish HBO would have got their hands on Preacher before AMC did, because the show is, weird and, quirky, and it's okay and it's in its own right, but it's not the Preacher show I wanted exactly.
Yeah.
I want the prestige Preacher show.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little more true to the source material, but, whatever. It's not like these things can't be readapted, but it's, a little soon, but
yeah.
There's a lot out there, so I'm sure HBO can find something to put out.
Yeah. So, kind of along those lines, we've gotten some news from the Disney streaming service, the forthcoming Disney streaming service. This week, we got a name. It's called Disney Plus. Okay.
Yeah.
We got confirmation that a Loki show is indeed happening, and that Tom Hiddleston is on
back
board
in Tom Hiddleston form.
Yes, in Loki form.
That's and the Scarlet Witch show.
I can only assume that since if you're getting Tom Hiddleston, then for this, then those other shows that you said that have been rumored are probably going to happen.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing what we talked about. They're going to do like these kind of like mini series.
Just call the show Marvel Tales, and just like let it, one season it's Loki, another season it's Scarlet Witch, so on and so forth.
Sure. Howard the Duck is going to get his due, baby.
Oh,
he's getting redemptions.
Howard the Duck. I'd be on board for that.
He's there.
Let's give the duck another shot.
A proper shot.
Yes.
No, George, you're not invited.
The Howard the Duck served its purpose. It gave us Pixar.
Fair enough.
So, but another big announcement came out of the Disney streaming service this week, and is that there will be a Cassian Andor series that will launch on the service at some point, and Diego Luna is returning as Cassian Andor.
Now, before you go any further, let me answer all of the listeners of our fine show who just asked, who? He's the guy in Rogue One who killed the other guy for no reason in the beginning of the movie. And then he dies at the end, like everyone else.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't kill him for no reason. He was going to get captured and he had sensitive information.
Fair enough. I don't remember anybody's name in that movie.
Well, you only watched it once and you refused to watch it again,
twice.
Despite the fact liking it.
I watched it twice, and it's fine. But I still don't know anyone's name in that movie.
I've watched it numerous times. I know all their names.
Because you've watched it numerous times, and you're predisposed to this kind of stuff. But to me, it was kind of like, what's his name again? Huh? Who? Oh, that guy. Okay. That guy. He's that guy's getting a show.
Still my third favorite Star Wars film.
Great battles. Excellent battles, especially the last battle. In fact, the last battle set the bar so high that it might remain the top battle in the franchise, to be honest with you.
It's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah.
It really is.
What is this show? What is this? What are we doing here?
Listen, you said, I'm in the bag for Star Wars, and that's not inaccurate. When I first heard the show, I was like, do we need this?
Welcome to my world.
I know everything I've ever wanted to know about this character, and this character served his purpose and was a good character. And then
what more do you need there?
Then I started thinking more about it. I'm like, all right, if they want to do kind of like
Origins of the Rebellion kind of show,
gritty intrigue spy type show in Star Wars, okay, maybe that could work. And then I had an epiphany of what's going to get me to watch the show.
Go on.
Other than the fact that it's Star Wars.
The droid?
K2SO!
Yeah.
We're going to get more K2SO. And that, my friend, is worth the price of admission.
They probably buried the lead on that announcement. They should have just said, K2SO's getting a show. And everyone's yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, okay, cool, yeah. See, that would have made me go okay.
Yeah.
But Cassian Andor, K2SO. Oh, okay, cool. Do they have money to do that on TV? I guess they do.
Yeah, it's Disney.
It's Disney. They're just throwing money at it.
They have all the money.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Stephanie McMahon said earlier this week?
No. I try not to listen to what she says.
She said that she believes that in the foreseeable future, WWE can be as big as Disney.
Yeah, that's laughable. That's absolutely laughable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, no. Let me stop her right there.
Yeah.
If anything,
they can't even be as big as Euro Disney.
If anything, WWE might be purchased by Disney someday. That's been talked about in the past in certain circles. Nothing too serious, but there is a plausibility to it that it could happen.
I mean,
that's not based on any information I have.
It wouldn't, as I think about it, it wouldn't shock me.
They're the biggest name in wrestling. Disney just likes to acquire big pieces to add to their portfolio. If they ever just made a call and said, Vince, we're bored. We want to buy your company. Here's a number. I think Vince is at the point in his life where he would just go, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're the only entity big enough that could do that. And there was this little hot rumor about, I don't know, two years ago or so, that Vince was open to selling the company more than he ever had been before. For a long time, it was never, ever, never, ever. And then a couple years ago, these word kind of came out he's more open to it now than he's ever been. And then that got people talking well, who who could possibly do it, and who would the players be and why. And at this point, with their valuation on the stock market, which is all inflated, it's all bull. It's such bull crap. But anyway, an entity like Disney would be the only ones viable enough to pull it off.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would, but
could Fox do it?
Yeah, probably. You're talking a few $1 billion.
That seems like it would almost be a better fit.
Fox?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know that Fox wants to get into the business,
isn't one of the
though.
shows going over to Fox right now?
Yeah, SmackDown goes over in 2020, and that's why the stock is so overvalued, because the TV rights just got purchased, and it's all. Don't get me started, man. To me, it's wacky. It doesn't make any sense. The product is bad. The house show numbers are down. Merchandise numbers are down. Everything is down. Ratings are down, but they're getting record amount of money for television. Why? Yeah. I don't know. Why is this happening? How are you failing upwards continually? Anyway.
Drew.
Emma doesn't like it either. I can hear her.
Yeah. I just remembered a news story from this week. So to kind of close out the last story, Cassian Andor
show. Yeah,
we're getting a prequel series of a prequel movie.
Yeah, prequel of the prequel.
Drew, who just got hired to run the new XFL?
I'm so glad you asked that. Doug Whaley, former Bills GM Doug Whaley. Carl, that's not even the best part, man. That's not even the best part.
Keep going.
Hang on, I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so happy.
Oh God, I can't believe I forgot this. This brings a much needed smile to my face.
This is just the best. Hang on.
I gotta
this
is like.
Where is the quote? Where is the quote? And if Emma could calm down, that would be great. But she won't. Let's see. Where are you?
So the XFL is coming back, not in POG form.
No, in reality form.
In really real form.
Here it is. I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
Okay.
Oh, this is so good.
Cite the source.
This is all legit. This is coming from Bleacher Report, and there was a press release that was given, and in the press release, here is XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck, father of Andrew Luck, mind you, of the NFL's Indianapolis Colts quarterback. He is the XFL Commissioner.
Every time Andrew Luck speaks, he sounds like he's chewing on a baby.
He might be. Anyway. XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck said the following regarding Whaley's hiring. Based on his passion for all aspects of football, his intellect and vast experience as an NFL general manager, hang on, it gets better, we believe that Doug is the perfect choice to lead the XFL's football operations. The quality of the on-field product is paramount to the XFL's success, and Doug, who is tech-savvy and a firm believer in analytics, brings football credibility and a strong work ethic to the team. At which point, I dropped my phone and I said, "What world are you living in?" He couldn't use analytics with one team, much less a league. What are you, out of your mind? He was a disaster.
Oh, that's so good. It's just like
nobody cares about this besides us, right? Just so you know, there's our listeners in other cities and states are like, what are they talking about? Who is this guy?
Doug Whaley is the former GM of the Buffalo Bills,
he stunk.
So completely inept at his job.
Oh man! I mean,
when you get fired by the Bills, you've reached a new low in life.
Not necessarily, because the Bills owners don't know what they're doing. So for some of them, it's actually a blessing. But Doug Whaley is not one of those guys who is being held back in any capacity here. He was no. So that was fun.
That was hysterical.
That gave me a larf this week.
Oh man! All right. Well,
what else do we got?
Boomeranging back to Star Wars, a little more centric to me than centric to you in this one, Drew. The Wave 3 of X-Wing 2.0 was announced this week, and to quote Yoda, "Begun the Clone Wars have."
Oh, okay.
This is when they're introducing the Separatist faction and the old, the Galactic Republic faction. So they introduced, there's kind of like a starter kit coming out for both factions, and then a couple expansion packs for both of them. I always did like the ship designs in the films. It's kind of cool to see, like, you can kind of see where certain things came from. And the ship designs were cool and functional. So I'll be interested to see where this goes. Obviously I can say right now, not having a job, that I won't be, they're not a day one purchase for me, because I'm not purchasing anything like that right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. I need to see a little bit more, because now it's getting, so like either the end of this month, beginning next month, we get the First Order and the Resistance factions. So all those older ships will be usable again in the game. And they've released previews of those, and they look fun and whatnot. But then when these come out, which is reported to be first quarter of 2019, that's 7 factions.
Seems like a lot.
Well, you can approach it one of two ways. You can approach it and be like, well, this is kind of going to dilute the water or whatnot, or
it gives players maximum freedom to kind of build how they want to build.
More options are better.
Sure.
The way they have 2.0 set up, that you don't have to buy ships in other factions to get cards that you want for your ships, it lends itself well to that. So we'll see. I mean, traditionally up until this point, X-Wing, I've just kind of bought everything.
Yeah.
Because I have a problem.
I warned you about this problem.
And I've said before, there were worse problems to have, Drew. There are worse problems to have.
Sure.
As I stare over at a pile of guitars.
You're not wrong.
So, yeah, we'll kind of, I'm interested to see where the game's going to go after this.
All right.
So, yeah. Okay, so what else do we got?
Was there like one other thing that we're missing here?
We got just today our first teaser of Toy Story 4. We're kind of all over the board with news today. We're going
it was a hectic week.
Yeah.
I have the palette of tissues ready, man. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Did you see the teaser poster?
No.
With Woody?
No.
Oh.
Wait. Yeah, it looks very somber.
Yes.
Dude, I'm not ready for this. What are they doing?
Well, okay, and I know you're going to roll your eyes because this was part of the conversation we had earlier in our chat with Alan, but they kind of took this approach when Cars 3 was coming out. It seemed to be like a very dark tone, and like the preview poster and the early teasers were all just of like the Lightning McQueen character crashing, and they were saying like stuff coming to an end and whatnot. And then Cars 3 turned out to be, in my opinion, the best one in the series. So I don't know. It's like you said, it's Pixar. They have a lot of good credit built up. Not perfect credit.
No.
They've had some misses.
Couple.
Cars. Well, Cars 1 and Cars 3 are fantastic. Cars 2 is like, why?
That's how I feel about the whole franchise, but
well, it's not.
We've discussed that.
It's not your thing. It's not in your wheelhouse.
No,
that's fine. But
really,
just because it's not your thing doesn't make it bad.
I mean, anyway, but still, they have a very strong catalog. So if they say they're making Toy Story 4, I'm going to trust them. Even though Toy Story 3 pretty much...
It ended so perfectly.
Pretty much.
Like, it was absolutely perfect. Why do you want to go back and mess with that?
Because they weren't done wringing out my emotions. They want to wring them some more.
Like, you've got more in you.
Oh, God. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready for a good cry. Not ready for it. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Not ready for it. It's like, you know what it's like? This is why women watch This Is Us. Addicted to that cry. It's emotion porn. It's all it is. But for me, I have Toy Story. And I want it, but I don't, but I do.
So, like, does the movie end with, like, them all being separated at some toy convention?
You know?
Being bought up by...
or just, tossed into a garage sale and thrown into a shoebox, never to be seen again.
It's ultimately the...
See, I don't want to see that. That's the wrong way to go, man. The right way to go is what they already did. Andy hands him over to a new kid.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, man.
All right. Well.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will.
Or maybe they'll just finish the incinerator scene.
Oh God, dude, don't. They already. I mean, you did it once. You got me. You're not getting me again. Even if they pulled the trigger on it and actually followed through with it the second time around, you already tricked me once. That's not going to have the same resonance. So they have to come up with something else to make me weep like a baby again.
What if it was like at the end, just Buzz or just Woody alone going down to the incinerator?
It's gonna be. I don't know. It's gonna be something like that. Just watch.
Fades to black before the last moment.
We'll see. I'm ready. I'm not ready. Anyway.
Hashtag ready, not ready.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
All right, so I think that pretty much brings about our news to a close.
Well, yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, we've been kind of all over the board, but it's been that kind of week. Normally here is where we rustle the papers and get into our episode breakdown of Daredevil. But as we mentioned earlier, I said to Drew before we started recording tonight, the show we always knew we were going to have to do but never wanted to do, and that is We Remember Stan Lee.
Yeah, we lost Stan.
We lost Stan yesterday. 95 years old. This doesn't feel the same way it did when we lost Carrie Fisher.
Well, with Stan being 95, it's, again, like you said,
we were ready.
It's you knew it was going to come eventually, and that we're definitely closer to the end than we were at the beginning. And I really, you know what though, after all he went through in the last year, especially all the weird shenanigans with his handlers and his family and all that stuff. I hope that now that it got settled, I was like, maybe Stan's going to pull through this and maybe he'll make it to 100. He's 95. He's hanging in there. But, they usually say when couples are that old, once a spouse goes, the other spouse does not last long after. Yeah. And after he lost his wife, I think that was within this year, maybe last year. And so... Yeah, Stan is no longer with us. What can you possibly say? Yeah, we're remembering Stan, and I got news for you, folks. We're not going to tell you anything you didn't know. And you brought up this point to me when we were discussing this. I'm like, that's true, but sometimes even the obvious is worth repeating. Because, when someone who had this impact on society. Yeah, it's amazing to say that because, it's easy to say impact on comics culture or whatever. Yeah. Dude, comics culture is pop culture, which is culture now. That's the ground zero of where his legend began as comics. Yeah. Just kind of sprung out from that. Just his impact just on storytelling. And not only that, his legacy is obviously everyone knows Stan Lee as the co-creator, as you read the fine print, folks, co-creator of many Marvel Comics characters. And there's always going to be that complicated legacy of how much did he do versus other people, etc. And I'm not here to talk about that specifically today, of all days. But the thing about it is, That guy in that medium with that voice turned something that people were like, I mean, comics could have been dead and forgotten after the 50s. Like, yeah,
there were like
you
three
know,
times in his lifetime that comics could have died off.
Sure.
And 2 times where it almost did.
Yeah. And like, you know, at the time Marvel Comics came to be, man, like DC was like the old guard and the Justice League was getting some success.
Yeah.
But like Marvel Comics, it's like we take it for granted now with them being, you know, mega blockbuster movies. In the 60s when Marvel was founded, it was like a sensation.
Yeah.
It was like a cult thing that became big. Comics got big again because Marvel came to be and was telling stories that no one else was telling in a medium that people like laughed off in the 50s, 10 years prior.
Yeah.
Marvel was a phenomenon, and Stan, you can say whatever you want about Stan, you know, he did this, he didn't do this, he treated this guy bad. He was the voice, if nothing else. He was the one driving the train.
force.
Yeah.
Like,
his personality sold those books and made that all those disparate titles under one roof. He gave them a common voice. He gave them a face and a voice that people latched onto. And he treated them like they were his friends, and he treated them like you, the reader. He made you feel like you were part of a club. You were in the circle, and you were in it. And this guy, he was already in his 40s.
Yeah.
And like he got a second crack at life. And like he ran with it, man.
Yeah,
it's unlikely. It's the most unlikely friggin' story you could think of that this guy did that. The circumstances that it all came together, that this guy made all that possible. Yeah. It's insane.
You know what it reminds me of is like if you think of the film The Founder.
Yeah.
Like I watched
except
that
he was
movie.
Kind of evil.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say evil. You know, he took advantage of others' laziness. I watched that movie that I recommended to you, and then like the one thing that I told you about was like McDonald's is so commonplace in our lives, and ever since we've been alive, that we didn't ever realize like how much of a revolutionary thing it was when it came out. It's the same way with Marvel. Like it's kind of secondhand to us because we've heard the story so many times about like, you know, how he was getting ready to quit and his publisher asked him to do one more story before he left. And, you know, Jones said, just do the story that you've always wanted to do. And that story was Fantastic Four. And, you know, that was the big bang of what became known as Marvel. But how revolutionary it was at that time to make characters with flaws, to make
fallible
characters
heroes
with feet of clay, to make a teenager who is normally always regulated to the role of sidekick the main hero.
Yeah.
It's just, and when you think about it, like having tried my hand at writing and realizing how difficult it is to write one good story, even exponentially more so difficulty it must be to create a character who stands the test of time and survives generations. Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster did it once with Superman. Bill Finger did it, you know, with Batman. But to create as many characters as he had a hand in,
and steer them
and steer them and guide them is just it's so far. Like when you do the roster in your head, and for us it's commonplace because we've, like you said, we've grown up with this stuff. But when you think about it, Fantastic Four, The Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man, Iron Man, X-Men, The Avengers, Daredevil. That's just like, that's the tip of the iceberg. Those are the marquee characters. There's dozens upon dozens of characters,
supporting casts,
who have endured
Silver Surfer
throughout the years.
Yeah. Doctor Doom.
Yeah. And Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
And just like the fact that one man had a large part in the birthing of each of those characters is so astonishing.
Yeah. That's what I guess, like I said, man. What a unlikely story. What an
yeah. It's a pure American story.
And not only that, not only is it like completely unlikely, but just think about like, okay, he struck gold in the '60s with this thing. That could have been it, but for whatever reason, that guy's voice and personality and guiding hand led him to be that like the face of the medium for all these years.
Yeah,
through the '70s,
you can
through
make,
the '80s,
yeah,
to now.
You can make the case that the greatest character Stanley ever created was Stanley.
That's not wrong.
Yeah, because he just like I first came to an understanding of Stanley not through comics but through Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, because he would voice the intro to every episode.
Mm-hmm.
And just that voice, that such distinct voice. And, later on after getting in comics, kind of learning who he is, then you've got like the Stan soapbox, and which that's been shared a lot in social media since yesterday.
Yeah, sure has. Again, this guy who's already like, what a creative visionary, way ahead of the curve on social issues.
Yeah.
Way ahead of the curve. What, man, like, what a guy. What a cool guy.
He's up there with like, he's up there with like, and I don't think I'm blowing it out of proportion here. He's up there with like Thomas Edison and Steve Jobs and
absolutely.
Like, just
look where Marvel is right now. I mean, just think about that. Again, This is all built on the back of, a lot of people, but Stan was the face and the voice, and he, again, the guiding hand. And in the '70s, and he left Marvel to go to L.A., he was championing TV projects. What came out of that? Well, the Spider-Man series, which no one likes, and the Incredible Hulk series, which we all love.
I like the Spider-Man series.
Leisure Suits.
They did what they could.
I know.
They
tried. They tried.
Yeah.
But they got the sad Hulk music out of it.
Got the Incredible Hulk series. You got a couple other television specials, and at some point it comes around to X-Men.
Yeah.
In 2000.
Yep. Another
X-Men,
crack at Spider-Man
series, another crack at Spider-Man, and like
then the floodgates
brings
open
us to where we are now. And like, you always see, even up until the last Avengers film, I'm sure we'll probably see it on the next couple films. Executive producer Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Now we know he didn't do anything on those films other than show up for his cameo, but it doesn't make a difference because his name is just as deserving to be on that as anyone else's. And ironically, like, this guy loved the fans.
He really did.
Because up until a couple of years ago, he was doing pretty much every convention he could.
Yep.
And this is at a point now where, folks, he doesn't need the money.
No, he's got a 7-figure payday annually from Marvel for the last little while. I mean,
yeah.
Again, the stories coming out about the hangers-on and whatnot being what they are, fine, but he didn't need it.
He was there at every convention. He met, everyone he could.
And everyone says the same thing. They said he was just the most friendly, welcoming guy you could ever imagine.
Surprisingly enough, before his death, I'm not quite sure what his death will do for it, but his autograph isn't worth that much because there are so many of them out there. Like, what was it? David Adams had a copy of, like, a print of the cover of Amazing Spider-Man #1, autographed by Stan Lee, and they were asking $300 for it. And I'm like, guys, you're asking way too much money for that because there's the market. Like, I can go get that same thing for half that price.
But it doesn't matter.
But that doesn't matter. It's because of his love for the fans that there are so many autographs out there, and just like how he just championed comics through its darkest days. Like in the 50s, the medium almost died off. The book, the Seduction of the Innocent,
Yep.
almost killed the comic medium. And it was just hanging on by a thread. And then in the early 60s, Stan comes along with Fantastic Four. Boom.
Marvel. Boom.
The Silver Age of comics begins. And then in the 90s, after the collector's bubble bursts, the medium almost dies off again.
Yeah.
And through both those things, Stan's there kind of like carrying the flag up front for comics.
And we were talking about, we were kind of getting into this, and I remarked that I'm still trying to think, like, will we ever have anyone like that again?
No,
I don't think so.
No, we won't.
With that voice and the personality, the voice, the whole thing, like, that Stan Lee is comics.
Yeah,
like,
we just, if anything else, just because comics don't work like that anymore.
No.
They're all corporations now, and corporations aren't going to let one person become that powerful.
Sure.
But
even that aside, though, even if they pick somebody,
aside,
even if they, there's nobody I can even remotely think of that could carry that role on.
Yeah,
there's nobody. I mean, the only name that comes to mind, he could never do it in the same way, just because of his personality and his other work is like Kevin Smith. The only guy I could think of that's like, when people think of him, they think of comics, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah,
it's just not the same thing.
He would have to stop and just devote himself 100% to comics, to
right?
kind of even begin to come close to that role. I don't think that's something he'd be interested in doing, because that's not a mantle he'd want to take up.
He's a great advocate, but he's not he's never been the creative force in the same way. And again, like, his legacy is tied up in movies of quality, depending on, based on, whoever you might be. Personal taste. And not only that, they're not kid friendly, obviously. Whereas like Stan cared about readers of all ages. In the 60s, when Marvel was doing gangbusters, guess what? It wasn't just kids that made it go gangbusters. Marvel was hot in colleges, because the stories they were telling were out there, and they were really progressive, and they had bigger messages that DC and the Justice League and stuff weren't really doing.
Yeah.
And that's why Marvel became a sensation, because it was topical, but kids still loved it, and adults loved it too. Like
Black Panther.
Black Panther alone, dude.
Black Panther, I don't think he was part of Luke Cage's creation.
No, but he was gone by then.
But he was definitely part of Black Panther's creation.
And look where that look. I mean, look no further now. God.
Yeah.
But someone had to create it. Someone had to do it. It was Stan.
Yeah. And in a time when you did not do a black superhero.
Right.
Like
in his own book.
Yeah, in their own book. You barely did black characters, let alone a black superhero, let alone a black superhero story set in Africa. Just astonishing.
Like I said, way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that welcoming, charming personality and voice, there's nothing like that. Nobody. Yeah. This is nobody.
Yeah, I mean, I thought long and hard. Actually, I got some texts from some people, and I do appreciate the sentiments. Texted me yesterday asking me, like, how are you holding up? I'm like, it's I'm not going to lie, some tears have been shed, and it hurts, but, we kind of knew this was coming. But just like how you never felt bad hitching your wagon to him. Like, that's the guy right there. That's the guy that's leading the way, the Generalissimo, as he referred to himself as. And like the people would associate you with like that culture, that thing, and to know that this person passing away, and obviously it's getting mainstream media coverage because this is it's a term that I don't use a lot. It's an American icon.
Absolutely.
We lost. And that doesn't happen often. There's like very few times when you can stand back and say, that's an American icon right there that we lost. I think it's happened it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the last one. Maybe Steve Jobs. Dale Earnhardt for me. Definitely. But yeah, and like we can fill shows just talking about Stan's professional accomplishments, but what it boils down to is what his impact on us personally is. And I was thinking about that a lot yesterday. And, you know, I'm very much a chain thinker. One concept leads to another. And I end up like, if I step back and examine myself, who I am personally today, who I strive to be, you know, what I feel the best version of myself could be, who had influence in guiding that. And if I were to make like a top 5 list of people who influence who I am and who I try to be as a person today, number 1 on the list is Jesus Christ. Number 2 on the list is my father. Dude, number 3 on the list is Stan Lee. Because like his interpretation, like the hero's journey was nothing he invented. That's been around since the days of like the Iliad and the Odyssey and things like that. His interpretation and presentation of it through, for me in particular, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man's the A1 example, man.
Yeah.
And Stan was very adamant that Spider-Man be the everyman hero who always tries, not always succeeds, but tries to do the right thing.
Yeah, and like through his interpretation of that through Spider-Man, laid the groundwork for my moral compass. And that moral compass has guided me throughout my entire life. That moral compass, you know, led me to my faith. That moral compass just continues to guide me to this day. And so to like really sit back and realize like that man had that much of an impact on my life was really, I don't want to say surprising, but like still kind of like, you know, for lack of a better term, surprising when I sat down and thought about it.
And dude, think about this. You're not alone.
No, God, no.
Like, how many? Do you know how many lives that dude has indirectly affected? Like, I got into comics when I was a kid because Marvel comics were awesome. Like, I picked up I saw like I couldn't even tell you the first one I saw, but the first one that springs to mind is the issue of the Hulk with Wolverine's claws.
Yeah,
which Hulk is reflected in him. Like, and I was like, what's this?
Yeah, the McFarlane cover.
The McFarlane cover.
Yeah, and
then boom, I'm into comics. And my uncle who passed away about 15 years ago, he was my like guide into Marvel Comics because he lived all that stuff.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, that's when Marvel came to prominence. Guess who his favorite characters were? Thor, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Captain America, Silver Surfer. These are all Stan had a hand again in the. So I got a big education from a family member who got the education early on, and it just continues. And like, comics have been a part of my life ever since.
Yeah.
Like,
your son is named after a comic writer.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Go figure.
It's,
yeah. Like, and this guy made all that stuff happen.
Yeah.
Like, man, what more can I tell you? And think about it, and now, as if like I'm 37, well, 36. I'll be 37 next year. That's before these movies came out. Even,
yeah.
Okay. Now these movies are out making billions of dollars globally.
Yeah.
His legacy just spreads further, and it's going to keep going into the ages at this point.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's strange when you think about like kind of the era we're in right now, the phenomena of the films. Depending on what generation you came from, like for us, the films are kind of like the championship for the long-suffering fan. This is the title run. Yeah. And at the same time, like for the people that are discovering these characters for the first time, I'm glad that, even though we don't have Stan anymore to really guide them along, that we're here to kind of guide them along should they want it.
Yeah.
That kind of guidance. And I've come across numerous people who have wanted that kind of guidance. Like, where did this come from? Where can I get more of this?
I've steered so many people into comics, and I hope I can do more. Anybody, and that's another thing. Like, when people think of comics now or this kind of stuff and they want answers, they come to me.
Yeah. It's
cool. I'm happy to help them.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, the biggest concern, the biggest thing that sucks about being unemployed right now is not being able to provide, financially for my family. We are in a very fortunate situation where, Julie has a very good job. But the other thing that, like, really sucks about it is, like, all non-essential spending stops.
Yeah.
So, like, past couple weeks, I haven't gotten any comics. And that... I didn't think it'd be such a big deal, but that kind of hurts, man. It's just like, because you take them for granted when you have them,
and then you don't have them, and you miss them.
You don't have them. You're like, oh,
yeah.
So yesterday and earlier today, I mentioned that we were going to do this episode, and I asked anyone if they want to share some memories or some thoughts on Stans to send us a message. We did get a couple. First from Troy Teague. Troy says, growing up, I always knew Stan Lee's characters, but I remember around 94, my first time seeing Stan Lee talk about his contributions to the X-Men comic and the X-Men animated series. It was on, and get ready for a serious flashback because I know you're going to remember this. It was on a promotional VHS that was given away at Pizza Hut.
Oh, wow.
Same one that had the 4-player X-Men arcade cabinet. The tape had a behind-the-scenes feature on it that was my first time seeing him and hearing the iconic Excelsior. It's sad to hear of his passing, but it had truly been a privilege enjoying his characters in the comic, gaming, and cinematic mediums. Thank you guys for all you do on your podcast and for this chance to share my Stan Lee memory. Excelsior and Wakanda Forever. Troy, thank you very much for your email. We appreciate it. The second email we got was from one of our younger listeners, Mr. Brendan Budnick, who's written in the show before. Carl and Drew, what was your favorite Stan Lee cameo in the MCU?
Oh, man, there's so many. There's so many
good ones.
And the supercuts have all gone up on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Like everyone ever.
Yeah.
Okay, so we both kind of said before the one in the Amazing Spider-Man, despite not being MCU,
that to me is his best one.
Yeah,
my favorite MCU one.
Yeah,
is Tony Stank.
I was gonna say Tony Stank ranks pretty high. That though, and the one with where he drinks the Asgardian stuff in Age of Ultron. Yeah.
Yep.
That was pretty good. And let me try to. There's so many.
Great.
There's so many. They're all great.
Do you remember his cameo in Trial of the Incredible Hulk?
Yeah, as a juror.
He was a juror.
Yeah. Or in Guardians 2, when he's revealed talking to Watchers, and he's kind of revealing that he's been there all along, and he's the same guy. Oh man, yeah. I mean. There's so many great ones.
Yeah, the Amazing Spider-Man one. And it's funny because he doesn't say anything in that one. He's just a librarian, filing some books away, wearing headphones. There's this huge, like, very Marvel fights going on right behind him.
You know what one, though, is taking on a whole new meaning?
What's that?
I'm sure you've seen it. I think it was an Amazing Spider-Man 3. Or no, I'm sorry. Spider-Man 3, where he talks to Peter Parker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just says, I guess one man really can make a difference. And if you just isolate that clip and that context right there, it's like, Stan.
Stan, why?
You're underselling it, buddy.
Yeah. To say that you made a difference.
You sure can.
Is such an understatement. Yeah, man. It's going to be tough to imagine comics going forward without him.
Comics will be okay, but like I said, man, where's that
Yeah.
We always had a champion.
Yeah.
And now we don't.
There's always the patriarch.
Yeah.
He was kind of always there as like, and I know many will not agree with the statement, but he was always there as kind of like the final say-so on things comic related because he had earned that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be tough for the next Avengers film when you see that. Like,
oh, yeah. I know.
4 Stan or RIP Stan. Either, I hope they do it before
Yeah.
the film starts. And
We'll
just so
see.
you remember, like, where, man.
Yeah, it stinks.
I said to you before we started the show, he didn't die. He just got bored and went to another dimension.
Sure.
He's Stan freaking Lee, man. He's got, if anyone has the power cosmic, it's Stan Lee.
I sure hope so.
Like he's chilling somewhere with Dr. Manhattan going, you did a couple good things here. Let me show you what you could have done better.
And put your junk away.
Put your junk away. No kids want to see that.
Wrong franchise. But either way, he did some DC work.
Yeah.
The less said, the better. But still.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not everything he did was perfect.
No, by no means.
But it always had heart.
Yes. And again,
that's-
that the charming personality.
I'll take heart over perfection any day of the week.
Hey,
I mean, I want to keep talking, but
I think we've said
yeah.
everything we want to say.
Yeah, it's kind of like, the end of a memorial service where you don't want to quite leave because once you leave, then it becomes real.
Right.
But yeah, that's what we got. So, Stanley, thank you. As really sums up best, just thank you. And wherever you are, know that whenever we read a comic, we'll be thinking of you, sir. And just thank you. So, all right, folks, that does it for another episode of The Devil's Due. We thank you very much for joining us. If you would like to send any questions or comments to the show, you can do so. You can find us on Twitter at Devil's Due Pod. You can go to facebook.com/Devil's Due Pod, like our page. You can email us at thedevilsdupod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdupodcast.com. Drew, that being said, any last thoughts?
As Stan would always say to all of his friends and fans, all I can really offer up here is Excelsior, true believers.
Enough said.